Hi guys, my name is Vlad. I'm a real estate agent with Keller Williams here in Toronto, Ontario, and today I'm talking to my partner, my business partner, Mitra Nobakht-Eivaly. She's been in the business for 11 years at this time. Is that right,
Yes.
Mitra? Yeah, Mitra is a tremendously successful agent, and I'm so glad that we've joined forces about 4.5 years ago. Today we're going to talk about a few topics that are of importance to us as agents, not only to Mitra and I, but also to a larger agent population in the GTA, in the Greater Toronto area, but also certainly of relevance to the larger consumer group that is in the market trying to transact, whether to buy, sell, invest, etc. in real estate. Let's first overview the market conditions, I suppose, that are prevalent in the Toronto marketplace. The market has changed a great deal in the past 2 years. Would you agree with that? I guess that's something that is not really a topic of a discussion very much. Everybody agrees with that, meaning it's not a contentious thing to say. The market is dramatically different now than it was in 2017. And, perhaps to kick things off, what we want to talk about a little bit is what's happening in the marketplace. Perhaps look at some stats from the most recent reports in March and April, see how it's impacting the market, and what do we think the market is, where do we think the market is heading?
For sure. So we always say to our clients that we don't have a crystal ball. We cannot really predict what's going to happen in the future. But what is really obvious, since 2017, there was a huge adjustment on the sales prices, and at the same time we see that this year, from January till now, the number of sales increased, the month of inventories decreased. The number of days on the market has been, decreased compared to, last year or 2 years ago. And that is a great sign of knowing that the market is stabilizing itself. But at the same time, when we look at really the number of sales compared to 2017, we are still below where we were in the last decades, per se.
Yeah, exactly. Do you feel that the stress test introduced by the government about 2 years ago is impacting things in the GTA? And what sort of impact does it have? Do you think that there is also, that's the second question, do you think there is going to be anything happening with the stress test? Because there was a lot of speculation, certainly in the media, that the government might be reconsidering because it had such a substantial impact on one of the most important capital markets in Canada. Is that something that you think is going to change?
I really don't see any sign of adjustment by OFSI. There is no indication that they are going to make any adjustment. However, I do see that the mortgage industry are trying to find different ways, as always, to really accommodate offering some mortgage options to clients that definitely they can be not high risk. And this is great how we can be very creative on the offers that we can propose to potential buyers who are serious, who do have good job, who have good income, but they are just at the mercy of new regulations, the stress test and everything that happened in the last few years. And at the same time, we do see that the impact of all those changes has been more for detached homes, per se, 905 or 416 does not matter, and less impact on condos.
So perhaps just to interject, perhaps it has to do more with the price point of detached homes as compared to, say, semis or condo townhomes or freehold townhomes, right, or condominiums, because the price points for most condos, new construction condos, for instance, is roughly in a range of 450 to 750, right? Those are the most commoditized type units that people are buying, whereas detached homes are in excess of 800 mostly, right? That's sort of the starting point.
Yeah, absolutely. We do also see in our business flat that how we shifted, got focused mainly for listings that are below $1 million with the mortgage regulations, because it's very tough to get a mortgage above $1 million. And so that's why condo, apartments, freehold, townhomes, semi-detached homes are selling much faster. And that is how our focus has been changed.
Yeah, exactly. So what is your opinion on what's coming in the marketplace in the next, say, year to 2 years? With the stress test being in place, most likely, right, nothing is going to happen to that. Interest rates have not been raised this year. most likely it will stay in place. The immigration policy is such that Canada will allow 330 new immigrants into Canada over the next 12 months, right? So that's pretty strong as well. Construction is all over the place. There's, ridiculous number of new constructions or new construction sites that we see in Toronto alone. I've heard an interesting piece of information that the number of construction sites, as evidenced by the construction cranes in Toronto alone, is larger than in LA, Chicago, and New York combined. Again, not independently verified. I'm not sure if it's 100% true, but we see that there's a lot of construction happening. So what do you feel is going to be happening in the marketplace over the next year or so?
Great subject actually to talk about. As we do see that the mortgage regulations are becoming tighter, we do see a lot of buyers who want to invest in pre-construction. They have a down payment that could really secure them an investment in great locations on pre-construction projects, while they can use their down payment, and within the next few years, by the time that the project is completed, then hopefully by then regulations are also going to be softened. At the same time, what I feel that really every potential buyer or seller needs to think about is if they are in a market to buy and sell, so the same rule would apply anyway. So if you want to buy and sell in the same market, then you buy low, you sell low. And if you are thinking of upsizing, that's an amazing time, because homes that are literally detached homes, we know that they suffered hugely. So whoever wants to upsize, that's a great time. Whoever wants to just come into the market as a first home buyer, this is an amazing time. The interest rate is still low. Prices are amazingly low compared to a few years ago. So this is a great time for a lot of people investors. We do see a lot of investors who do invest in real estate, but they are very smart of where to invest. And that is how we can help you, to guide you, redirect you to areas that we know that definitely the rate of return would be huge.
So that's from the agent's perspective as we communicate to the end consumers, right?
Yeah.
People that are in the market thinking about doing something, either selling or buying. From a perspective of a real estate agent, though, the market is shit, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yes,
I mean, I'm surprised to hear a month ago at Mike Ferry conference, he was citing some numbers that apparently his admin team prepared for him to pronounce on stage. They were talking about TREB, 53,000 licensed agents. You came up with a number of 54,000 yesterday. Again, it's hard to verify those numbers independently because when you search on the web, TREB is only sharing the information in rough numbers, right? They're saying in excess of 50,000 agents are licensed. 53 to 54 is a very likely number, and there's so many agents and so few listings in the marketplace that it's a tough deal. One of the things, sort of a lead up into the next conversation or the next question, one of the things that we wanted to talk about is how do you find the business? How do you find the leads? And perhaps a good place to start would be with the definition of a lead. What's a lead for a real estate agent? How do you define a lead?
Great question. If you listen to what Mike Ferry says, then lead is anybody who wants to buy and sell within the next 10 days, or really stretch it would be a month. However, lead could be also any potential buyer and seller, in my opinion, that they are thinking of moving within the next 3 to 6 months or even a year, and how can we create a system that we can nurture them, we can work with them, and if there is a new opportunity that comes in, they might be open to it, and this is a process. So I would say it depends on really how you would really consider your style of lead generation. Of course, me personally.
So what's your definition of a lead?
Yeah, for me, of course, I want to focus on anybody who wants to buy and sell now. And that's the best way of me leveraging my time, where I can really serve my clients right now. However, where we are in our business, personally, as a team, we are not only presenting, negotiating, we are also managing the leads and prospecting. So we really have different hats. So having different hats, my priority would be working with people who want to buy and sell immediately within the next month or 3. At the same time, I should never forget to lead follow up to make sure that, I would really consistently would have my number of transactions secured within a year.
Yeah, within a future of 6 to 12 to 18 months, perhaps. It's worth talking about what's referred to as a sales funnel in the context of a conversation of a lead, because I think that will help us define what a lead is, right? One of the ways to look at the sales funnel is through a number of categories. And one of the ones that I specifically like is where it's defined as follows. It's awareness, interest, evaluation, 3 points awareness, right? At first, you as a buyer or as a seller. Let's talk about sellers. You as a seller become interested in engaging somebody for their services to sell the home, right? You start considering maybe it's a good time to sell for whatever your considerations are. Then you start expressing interest in the matter. You start doing the research and evaluating, right, what's happening in the marketplace, whether this is in fact a good time for you to sell your property right now. You start conversations with the family. Then there is a decision
to be made.
To be made. Once you make a decision, you move into the execution place and you purchase, right? Purchase, in this case, you purchase the set of services the listing agent is offering. So that's a great topic in the context of what is a lead, right? Because if you look at the lead in the wider context, somebody who's starting out with the interest, right? Oh, let me just look around, let me consider in my mind whether this is something I want to do. So if this is the starting point of a lead, then in reality, everybody in the city of Toronto or the greater Toronto area is a potential lead, right? But as you narrow it down further, for instance, for sale by owner, they've already gone through all 5 steps. And in fact, they already decided to make that purchase, but they happen to be purchasing either their own services, right? We're going to be the executor of whatever it is we want to do, or they engage one of the discount brokerages like Purple Brick. So they've made the decision, and you're hunting for somebody who is already ready. You just need to convert them. The decision you've made is not exactly in the right direction. You want to redirect them. Expired is another good, business source to test against the criteria, in that they have also made a decision, put the house in the market, did not succeed. So it's your responsibility or your job to convince them that you are the people to deliver what they wanted to get out of this transaction. And then there are leads that take a lot longer to nurture and to acquire, right? And those could be in the earlier stages of that sales funnel. And also the sales, okay, so let's talk about the sales funnel for a second. You have something to say, please say it, and I'll talk about the sales funnel, because I don't like the term particularly, so we'll discuss that too. Yeah,
it's a complicated word, but really in reality, very important in our business, knowing that, what kind of clients we want to focus on. If we are focusing on for sale by owners and expired, definitely perhaps relationship building is not as important than, for example, farming an area or working with empty nesters, seniors, where they really need to make sure that we are not creating pressure, but at the same time we are holding their hands to be ready when they are ready. So the sales funnel, it creates great clarity of really categorizing and making sure that what is the call to action, that awareness for different categories, is that for sale by owners, expireds, empty nesters, different kind of clients that we attract, and then how can we really build rapport with them to have them ready to do a transaction with us, and finally we would make them our raving fans that they would come back to us and we can upsell by offering different services. For example, our clients, how many times we see that not only they would sell with us, but they also end up buying through us. And not only that, if we are really extraordinary, we are offering extraordinary service, we would get a referral, or we would have a sign call that would, generate another listing. So really focusing on how can we have that sales funnel to service us by getting one listing, have more transactions.
Okay. So that's kind of branching off of this topic that we're talking about of what the definition of a lead is, right? And yet I want to come back to the definition of a lead that we talked about earlier. So Mike Ferry, for instance, is saying that 7 to 10 days, right? So those are the people that are already in the decision-making process or in the purchasing stage.
Yeah.
As we're moving up the stages, right, closer to the beginning of the process, evaluation or interest or awareness, whatever that stage is, that's where you would want to catch those people and start establishing a relationship with them. So it's not purely transactional, but more of a really relationship building process where you nurture them for 6 months or a year or even longer, right? As long as it's necessary.
Even shorter, could be even a month, knowing that how aggressively we would really have a system.
So what's the definition of a lead for you?
For me, anyone who is thinking of buying and selling immediately is my preferred choice. However, I do see is more and more difficult. You know, when you see the number of listings, the number of active listings or sales, we do see that really the likelihood of having many people that they want to act now, and still we are top 1%, but you know, this is it. This is where we are. There are not many sales and many active listings. Having 9,042 sales in April is not a lot. Or having an active listing of 11,000, I think it was in April, they are not a lot. So the question is whether we do have the choice of always to work with the ones that are going to do a transaction within the next month or 3.
You see,
I don't see that to be happening if you are not in 2016 or 17. That's the reality. We do see that a lot of people are on the fence. Even sellers or buyers, doesn't matter, both of them. They are on the fence. Are they coming to the market or not? Can they be qualified or not? How many people we go?
And then also very importantly, are they using you? Right, or one of the other 53,000 agents that are present in the marketplace, right? Very
Forget
key.
about that 53,000 agents, because we know 44,000 of them, they do nothing really. They have no transactions.
Whoa, 44,000.
Yeah, 44,000 have no transactions. And the ones that they have transactions, they might have 1, 2, 3. So really the top 2% are making more than 6 transactions based on what we were looking at. Is that right, Vlad? Top 2%? That they were doing more than 6 transactions?
Well, yeah, certainly this is the market where the winner takes all, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the top 1 to 2 percentile of the agent population is making most of the transactions happen in the GTA. That is certainly true.
It's a tough competition.
Yeah, it is a very tough competition. Just wanted to address the issue of a funnel as well. I mean, to me, a regular physical funnel is where you're trying to get, say, water from a jar with a wide opening into something with a small opening. You put a funnel in, and all the water ends up inside of a jar with a small opening. But in reality, in the sales funnel, it's not the case. As if the funnel has a lot of holes, things dissipate, right, as you move down the line, and you end up with only a fraction of what you started with. Yeah. And depending on where you catch the lead, if you're catching them in the very beginning, as they're considering what their plans are, as they're becoming aware of maybe needing to sell and retire a year down the road, and they're starting that thinking process. If you catch them that early, the key concept in my mind has been building familiarity with those people, or rather them building familiarity with you. So when they're ready to ask questions to evaluate their decision validity further, or they're ready to move through with the process, they want to talk to you because they feel that they know you, they trust you, and they feel that you're part of their decision-making process as opposed to anybody else. How do you build that level of trust and familiarity with the seller before they're ready to do something?
Great question. What we noticed that, for example, right now for generating a hot lead, really someone who wants to buy and sell, we see that for every 100 to 200 contacts, we have based on our numbers, can you refresh my memory, Vlad? Was it about 150 to 200 contacts that we can generate a serious lead?
A listing appointment?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So 150 to 200 contacts to really secure a listing appointment, to know that yes, they are going to think of buying or selling. And once we do have...
Just by way of explanation, what is a contact? So that we're on the same page with people that are listening.
Having conversations, we are calling everybody, let's say so many people, but the ones that we have conversations with, right now we do see it takes even more number of conversation to secure one listing appointment.
Mm-hmm.
So securing that listing appointment is one thing, getting it is another thing, selling is another thing. So the whole process of really making sure that once we do find that hot lead who wants to buy or sell, then what is our sales funnel? How can we engage them? How can we bring value to them? How can we really build rapport with them that we would be the chosen one and not any other realtors?
You see, there is a fine balance, and I want us to specifically address 2 points separately, or as separately as we can address them, in that one is that you're talking about people that have already made a decision to move forward. It's just that they've not decided who they're moving forward with, right? So that's one. How do you make sure that they go with you? And quite another is when people are still considering what the options are, how would we be able to direct them towards asking us questions, working through us on making the decision and going through with the process with us as well? So you see that there's a fine line. How do we, I'm even more interested in how do we engage the people with us that are not quite ready to make the decision yet? What are your thoughts?
So personally, if I do see that someone is on the fence, I do see nothing than just nurture it. Sitting in a preliminary meeting with them, having a conversation that would be more meaningful, talking about the market, where we are, where they are heading. Are they thinking of downsizing? And then if they are downsizing to a condo, when the price of condos are really, really increasing year after year, month after month, then really bringing different perspective to their thinking. And then I would say that they would make a decision once they hear different options, rather than being forceful, really offering them different perspective, educating them and asking the right questions, what is important to them. That is really what was the growth for us, without knowing really what is their why and why they want to make that move, nothing will happen. Once we do figure out the why behind that decision making, everything becomes easy.
You see, but normally when people are going through the process of becoming ready to sell, they don't give you the time of day. Yeah. Right? It's not like they're ready to engage you, to talk to you, because they feel, okay, the salesperson, they're going to convince me or almost force me into something I don't want to do right now. I'm not ready for it. I'm not sure that I've explored all the options that are available for me. I'm not sure if I'm going to overpay and get the services that I'm hoping to be delivered to me. There's a lot of doubt that's happening in their mind, and there is very limited level of engagement that you have with them. So it's one thing to call them every 6 months and say, hey, I spoke with you 2 years ago. Are you ready to retire? And like, no. Okay, fine. So one idea is that deliver them value, right?
Yeah.
There is only very limited amount of value they can deliver on the phone, calling a person unexpectedly, right? A much more interesting proposition to me in terms of delivering value long term would be making them interested in the information that you're providing.
Yes.
And what is the information that we can provide to them that they can get interested in and do their own research and actually reverse the roles and call us when they're ready? How can we achieve that, in your opinion?
So I do see that, for example, I'm attracting a lot of empty nesters. Somehow they're attracting me and I'm attracting them.
Whoa.
So what I see, really listening to what they need, if they want really to move to a condo, but they are not ready and there's so much fear, so much attachment, emotional attachment to their property, really being in communication with them, sending them some of the opportunities, condo opportunities that might be suitable for them, and offering different services such as really starting the whole process of coming to the market sooner. That would not be really overwhelming and would be just a step-by-step process. It could be from decluttering, doing some repairs, fresh painting, little things like that, that would really be less overwhelming for them, would make them to feel comfortable, would be really a way to building relationship with them. And at the same time, giving them the option to come and view a few condos that they can see themselves, whether they can see themselves moving into that condo sooner. And having tough conversations, because sometimes when you are working with clients who have been living in a home for many, many years, just making that decision is not easy. And really, they expect nothing than the truth from us in reality. They don't want us to sugarcoat things. They want us really to be truthful for them, even if it's painful, even if it's difficult. So really being honest with them. If this a move is difficult for them today, that they can imagine how difficult it can be a year from now or 2 years from now. And bringing them back to their why. If they want to really make a move because they want to be closer to their kids, or they want to, downsize to have peace of mind, lock the door and move. So why they are not doing that sooner? Why they are not creating the future that they are envisioning to bring it to now? So by asking questions and by literally not being forceful, by just listening to them, I feel that they would come. They would come when they are ready. They will make a decision when they are ready.
Okay. So I actually have a slightly differing opinion on this, and I'll obviously share it.
Yes, of course.
So we're talking about, first of all, one-on-one engagement, right? Let's engage the clients on the one-on-one basis. Let's provide them with information that we feel is valuable for them, given their circumstances at a time and where they are in the sales funnel per se, right? And all the while hoping that they will come back to you. So this is the one-on-one approach. It's great for a few reasons.
Not necessarily.
Just let me finish my thought.
Campaign for that.
Right. Let me finish my thought. This is one-on-one engagement, and I think it's valuable for a few reasons. First of all, it gives you the discipline to do certain things on a daily basis, which could be exceptionally boring, right? And when you look at it from a larger time slice perspective, when you do something for a week, okay, it's bearable. When you do something for a year, it's less bearable, and it becomes increasingly boring as time passes. If you do that same thing day after day after day, it gets boring, and you have to be there with that boredom, right? You have to overcome yourself every day to make sure that you continue doing those fundamental things that you do. Exactly. So that turns into a routine for a few hours a day. So that's number one. Number two, it gives you a tremendous opportunity to sharpen your skills daily, right? You supplement your prospecting efforts, something that you do through this excruciating boredom every day, with daily role playing. And that gives you the fundamentals of knowing how to engage people in a conversation once it comes the time to have the conversation. Correct? And it also gives you, very importantly, a predictable level of business. Whether the market is good, you're dialing, you don't have to dial up really your efforts, and things are selling on their own, and clients are coming, and referrals are coming, etc., because everybody wants to speculate and make the money in a lucrative market. Or if the market is bad, where you actually have to dial in your efforts, instead of prospecting for 2 hours, maybe you need to do it for 5, etc., right? To make sure that you hit that consistent level of income into your business. That's for the one-on-one approach. And it gives you the confidence of knowing how to engage people. When you're doing an en masse engagement, where you're really multiplying it by a factor of 3, 5, or 10 perhaps, right? When you have a large pool of people that you can talk to indirectly by maybe providing them with the information through campaigns, as you mentioned. Providing them with the information through social media engagement.
Seminars.
Seminars, exactly, right? When you're talking to a group of people, maybe 20, maybe 50, maybe to 100, talking about people that are thinking about downsizing and making sure that they build that familiarity with you. Or engaging them through videos, depending on the age group as well.
Yes,
different
absolutely.
methods would be more effective. So what I'm trying to say here is that yes, absolutely, one-on-one engagement is very important for those factors that I've outlined. But then once you pass that threshold, you can engage people at a higher level in larger numbers.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. I'm in full agreement, really having mass impact. And it does not necessarily, we need to combine different types of relationship building. It doesn't necessarily need to be one-on-one, but we talked about it, how we can create seminars, webinars based on different age group. Of course, we can attract more younger generations for webinars, and we can attract empty nester seniors for seminars, and then having mass impact, creating campaigns that would be also providing them updates, personalized update. And that is what we need to work on this year, to make sure that we bring more value by not only calling them or pop by seeing them, but also constantly through our campaigns, we can really bring more value.
And through social media engagement as well, right? Using really old channels. So it seems that our view on this matter is that there's a fundamental set of skills that you need to have as a listing agent, and we're talking about listings primarily, right? As a listing agent, that you build, develop, and maintain by having this daily routine, which is really one-on-one engagement. And that on top of that, you really, in order to multiply your business, and a popular term right now, 10x your income.
Yes, absolutely.
You need to explore and be active in a lot of other venues as well. Webinars you mentioned, seminars you mentioned, engaging different age groups through different means that are accessible to them, providing them with videos, engaging people on Instagram and Facebook.
Networking.
Yeah. Okay, so multifaceted approach is very important in any market, particularly in the market that is shit like we have right now, that is flat or declining.
And also it removes the boredom, because once you do one thing, one way of prospecting, it becomes boring. But when you really bring some variation on what you do and seeing that the impact is just really much bigger, then of course it creates a lot of rewarding opportunities.
Exactly. The question is, how do you turn it from an idea and a concept that you might have in my mind, okay, I want to prospect, and also I want to record videos and engage people through my Instagram feed and do webinars. And it's overwhelming, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
How do you convert that concept that you might have forming and gelling in your mind into a system that you can follow? Any thoughts?
Execution. And we really... I'm very proud of what we have been doing. We literally created a quarter plan and reviewing in the last several years, not only having a long-term plan, but also having quarter plan that we can go back and say, okay, what was this quarter, first quarter of 2019 compared to first quarter of 2018, and we make adjustments accordingly. Or within first, second, third, fourth quarter, that we can really create some new ideas for execution. And
so I'm sorry to interrupt for a second. You hit a very important point, and the point is, in order for you to know where you are, you need to know where you have been in the past quarter. So what do we do for that?
Where we were, where we are, and where we are heading.
So tracking, right? How key is that?
Very important, actually. One of the great things that happened for us, actually, with the market shift, it was really having an awareness of knowing without knowing our numbers, we really don't know where we are heading. And also being brutally honest with ourselves. No sugarcoating, we need to be brutally honest with us. Where we are, what are our numbers, what is our conversion ratio, and digging deep of what are the sources of leads, what kind of clients we have been attracting, to make sure that what our focus needs to be for the next quarter. And we also have another great way of being on top of our goals is by having every day our call, 30 minutes of our call, and 7 different forces of business mastery, we call it. That is a concept that was introduced by Tony Robbins, that we would use and make sure that we would really touch the 7 forces of business mastery that is important for any businesses, and that we can really talk about it and see whether it has been an idea that was forgotten, how we can bring it back to life, and how can we execute for the this quarter or the following quarter.
Okay.
Based on our financials, based on where we are in the market. And also, the high season requires a different kind of marketing than
the low season. Exactly. It has to do with how you balance out the amount of work that you do with the sellers versus the buyers.
Yeah.
So a few things to recoup on the previous point is that tracking the numbers is key, right, for knowing and understanding where you are and where you were in the past quarter or maybe a past year.
Absolutely.
That affects your planning going forward, right? Because knowing where you are, you can objectively plan in terms of where you can be a year from now.
Absolutely.
Right? Then you put together a bunch of ideas that you might be coming up with in a daily, 3 times a week meeting regarding the business and the current market conditions.
Mm-hmm.
So external factors that are affecting your efforts.
Yes.
And then you convert all of that combined into a system that you follow, gradually adding layers to it as you move along in time.
Yeah,
Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. You see, the business is so changing, and as the environment is changing, as the market is changing, we just literally need to recreate ourselves. It's not that, okay, these are the sets of goals that we put in place and we are fixed about it. We have to be flexible, and we have been very flexible to not only for the income goal that we had, but also the way that we prospect or the number of hours that we prospect. So there is a lot of flexibility and adjustment required to make sure that we are moving forward rather than backward.
Okay, so great point. One extra point is that you need to be super observant, really open-minded, and have your eyes on the market at all times to make micro adjustments and weave through what's going on effectively to achieve the goals that you have. Exactly. What do you think? That's kind of a next question that I think is of interest. What do you think is going to be happening in the marketplace in light of the fact there are a few big companies that are moving from south of the border into Canada? Zillow it's huge in the United States. Mm-hmm. It will likely be as popular in Canada. Redfin is an example of a different type of a brokerage and a different business model than, say, Zillow, right? Zillow is largely deriving its revenues from advertising. Redfin does not. It relies on the agents and the transactions that they do and the fees that they pay to the brokerage. But the model is very different from a traditional brokerage that they have. And that's just two examples of what's coming into the market. How do you think those new trends and those new companies that have huge footprint in the United States and will establish a big footprint here in Canada, how will they affect the marketplace?
You see, I feel that having competition is great. At the same time, yes, there are new companies always coming and going. Redfin started several years ago and then end up, being bankrupt.
Just by way of clarification, PIN, that's a Canadian company.
Yes.
FIN, Redpin versus
Yes.
Redfin, right, is an American
Yes.
company. I know you're talking about the Redpin that had disappeared.
Yeah. So I do not worry about the competition. There will be always new companies coming in. And that's why I love really focusing on relationship building business, because there are enough business for everybody who is top performer and who knows what they do. And I want to focus on what I'm great at, what we are great at, and focus on our unique ability and really attracting the kind of clients we want to attract, and also learning from competition. They are coming, yes. So what can we learn from them?
So kind of a dual focus approach, right? While making sure that daily business is coming, transactions are churning in that business machine that we have, little enterprise that we run daily, right? And that's kind of short money to make sure that the business is staying afloat, but also always having that long game in mind.
Absolutely.
Establishing long-term relationships with your fan group.
Yes, absolutely.
And finding and adding new fans to that group, and then converting them as the time comes for them, as they move into the purchasing window.
Absolutely. Right? I'm really so obsessed with that, because I just feel that it's so effortless. There is a level of connection that you would have with your clients. You don't need to prove yourself over and over again. They know you, they trust you, they have done business with you, and eye closed, they can refer you to people they care about. And so long as we really know how can we bring value to them consistently after transaction, there is current.
Yeah, that's a huge
post.
topic in and of itself,
Absolutely.
right? How do you service
Yes.
the people that you already transacted with, right? People that
Yes.
that are your past clients. Yeah, great topic as well. Look, just looking at the time, I think we covered a lot of ground. Maybe in broad terms, and we can be more specific in the next installment and the installment after that. I think it was a great conversation.
It was.
So, guys, thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, guys.
Right? If you have comments, please leave them in the section below. Subscribe. We would love for you to subscribe, because new material is going to be coming out on a weekly basis. There's going to be a lot of interesting conversations, certainly a lot of conversations with Mitra. We're going to be covering topics in more detail. We're going to really zero in and focus on a specific issue at hand and talk about it for a few minutes, not only in terms of best practices, but also how we use those best practices in our business, and thereby we'll be adding value to you and to your business as well. See you next week.
See you next week, guys.